It's always nice to begin by saying the stock market is up again. Another record in the stock market in the history of our country, which to me means jobs. We just hit the highest number in the history of the stock market.
You know, we just had another stock rocket.
You saw that, right?
All three. We had NASDAQ, we had S&P, we had Dow.
Set a new record. I think it's the 22nd time this year.
Sounds like Trump really cares about the stock market, huh? That he really thinks that it's a metric that tells people all they need to know about how the economy is doing under his presidency, that it's a positive for his presidency when the stock market is doing well. That's what he seems to be saying, right?
But if the stock market goes up or down, I don't watch the stock market. I watch jobs. Jobs are what I watch.
Jobs are what he watches, except for all the other times that he watches the stock market when it's positive. Because the reality is that Trump's rhetoric and incoherent trade wars have made the stock market fall at times, which is why you get that quote of him saying that he doesn't watch the stock market, that he watches jobs. He doesn't really care about the underemployment element of jobs, but because he's privileged, right? He grew up with a silver, gold, or maybe more like a gold-plated garish spoon with rubies on top of it. That's kind of gross, but it says you're really rich. That's what he grew up with in his mouth. But I digress. He does not care about the greater issue, that the stock market is a terrible indicator of the economy when taken by itself, because half of Americans have zero stake in it. Gallup found 55% of Americans reporting they own stock in April 2019, similar to the average of 54% Gallup has measured since 2010. This is based on a question asking respondents about any individual stocks they may own, as well as stocks included in mutual funds or retirement savings accounts like a 401k or IRA. That's nearly half of Americans who don't have any ownership or stake in the stock market. Half don't even have ownership in any retirement funds, let alone an E-Trade account where they're just, throwing investments at Disney. So the stock market is an indicator of prosperity for half of Americans at best, if we're looking at that indicator. But in reality, it's mostly just an indicator of prosperity for the very wealthy. A whopping 84% of all stocks owned by Americans belong to the wealthiest 10% of households. And that includes everyone's stakes in pension plans, 401ks, and individual retirement accounts, as well as trust funds, mutual funds, and college savings programs like 529 plans. So that's just terrifying. And it's just another gulf between the haves and the have-nots. It doesn't encourage any sustainability for the system, any open door for the little guy. It just gets to be the wealthiest 10% of the country. It gets to be their playground. And when it fails, which it inevitably will with Trump's deregulation, the Republicans, the corporate Democrats, the people who own the stock, the wealthiest, and the people who own the stake in everyone else's retirement plans will be the ones who feel it the least because they got the most money, right? And the reason regular people don't have investment in the market is, for at least a good chunk of them, because the deregulation burned them before when the Great Recession hit. Stock ownership was more common from 2001 to 2008, when an average of 62% of U.S. adults said they owned stock. But this fell toward the end of the 2007-2009 recession and has not fully rebounded. And I wonder why that is. Perhaps no one has any faith in the powers that be to correct the system, to make it more equitable, to make it more accessible for regular people, to regulate the industries so that they're not literally stealing money out of your pockets. People would rather put it under their mattress, buried in the backyard, all of the other, phrases and metaphors for what people do. But it's truly very close to the reality. And perhaps there should be some reflection on that, but no, it's just let's stuff all the money we can in our pockets before this cash cow of an administration is done. And Donald Trump obviously contradicts himself on that because the only thing he cares about is his personal wealth.